Welcome into another edition of Tampa 2. Casey Phillips here with staff writer Brianna Dix. And as always, we are here to get you ready with everything you need to know leading up to the next game. We are coming off a bye week. Typically, we recap a game, then move forward, but there isn't one to recap. And we did a little bit of sort of the big picture stuff last week of looking at where the team stands at this point in the season. So now we figured we just kind of jump ahead and look at the Browns game and just the second half of the season, even though it's not quite half. It's just an easy time to look at that. So for now, why don't we just start with the Browns and some of the keys to the game for you, the things that you feel like this team is really needing to focus on?
I think this game is going to hinge on the run game on both sides of the ball. So I think for the Buccaneers defense, it's going to be being able to stop the run. The Browns have not been able to successfully run the ball as of late. They didn't have that power rushing attack against the Bills that we're used to seeing. They had success early on with Nick Chubb, and their offense and the way that their personnel is built is predicated on running the football. So when they're able to get Nick Chubb moving, then that sets up play action. It sets up those Jacoby Brissett scrambles, and it sets up the operation of their offense. But when they get behind, that they haven't been able to sustain that success through after the first quarter, and so then they're not able to run the football. They're forced to be one-dimensional. So if the Bucs can stop the run, stop Nick Chubb, and force them to be one-dimensional, then they're going to be in good shape. And then for the Buccaneers, I think it's going to be creating that balanced attack that we saw in Germany, getting Rashad White involved. We don't really know what exactly the hit pointer situation is with Leonard Fournette, but getting those guys going, because I think one of the weaknesses right now for the Browns is that interior of their defensive line that's just led to these gaping holes. I mean, teams are having record high days running the football against that team. So if the Bucs can take advantage of that and create that balanced attack, which again will set up the play action, set up more time for Tom Brady in the pocket to survey the field, take shots downfield, then I think that's more aspects that Browns defense is going to have to contend with. But, I mean, when you look at Nick Chubb and this offense, I mean, he is one of the best backs in the league. I mean, just that one cut, downhill, explosive. And, you know, if a defense over pursues, you know, he's able to quickly cut back and just – he's nearly impossible to take down in the open field. So I think he's certainly going to be one of the biggest things for this Bucs defense this week.
Yeah, I think that the matchups this year that we've thought would go one way and then didn't have been pretty often. It's been interesting of how we're like, oh, I think this is how this will play out. So I'm almost hesitant to make this kind of prediction because we've said it before and it hasn't worked very well. But I feel like this is a perfect matchup for what the Bucs need at this point, because we saw what they were able to do against Seattle, and we want to see that it can be sustained, right? That we want to see that wasn't sort of a one-off game in terms of it being the game plan the Bucs want, where they were able to run the ball, which then opened up some of the more explosive plays, and they were able to stop the run and get a defensive takeaway, like every single thing that they'd felt like they'd wanted to do. This feels like a good team to have a second game in a row go that way and hopefully build that confidence, because like you said, the Bucs are going to want to be able to run the ball, and the Browns give up the run a lot. And so that would be a great confidence boost for this offensive line, for this run game to continue that again. And they have, you know, they're going to want to run the ball. We knew that about Seattle as well. And they still held Walker to 17 yards on 10 carries. Yeah. So I think that they seem to really benefit when they know that's what the team is going to want to do. So I feel like it's another game where if they can stop Chubb, stop the run a bit, get some of those run yards early. And the Browns are a team that they don't seem to handle it well when things don't go their way perfectly, that they don't bounce back from some of that, that they seem like they fall victim to mistakes.
Those adjustments aren't there.
And mistakes of, you know, whether it's dropping passes in the end zone last week, it's a fumble, it's these little things. And also their special teams has been a big struggle for them. And they just feel like a team that is mistake prone. And when we know that the Bucs have needed some more turnovers, that they got that first one in Seattle, it feels like a game that you can maybe produce some of those, and you can capitalize on a team that when they make a mistake, they don't tend to always bounce back from it well. It just feels like a game that could be exactly what the Bucs need in all those different areas. But I will say it's interesting that you know, we would have assumed maybe going into this season that part of why they were running the ball so much is just because they weren't going to have superb quarterback play, that maybe there wasn't a lot of expectation on Jacoby Brissett. But it's so interesting that he is not their problem. Right. That I think I saw he has the 6th highest QBR in the whole league. Who would have seen that coming?
Oh, he has played, I mean, their record is not indicative of how he's playing, because he has been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. And I know that this Browns team of the last couple years, I think if they'd had the play that Jacoby Brissett has been doing this year, they would have gone a lot farther these last couple years. So then it's interesting that now he's got, you know, he's playing the best ball of his career, but then other areas of the team have really kind of let them down. So I think it's going to just be an interesting matchup, of, especially compared to what we would have thought it would have been early in the year potentially. But yeah, I think that this matchup has the capability of being a good indicator for the Bucs, and just getting them, again, that momentum that hopefully the bye week didn't halt, that momentum of that final drive against the Rams and then the Seattle game. It feels like a team that could do that as well. And, you know, we talked a little bit about, you mentioned Leonard Fournette's hip pointer, and we'll see. We're recording this Wednesday morning, so we have essentially no injury information
to go off
of at this point. So we are very sorry, because of the whole Thanksgiving week, it's thrown off the schedule. So we have very little to go on of what could end up happening, of who is and isn't available this week. But one thing that we do know injury-wise is that Giovanni Bernard has been designated to return from injured reserve, which means it starts a 21-day window where he is able to be activated to the roster. And I think that I don't know that it will be for this Sunday, but I think there is a chance, because they typically don't want to cut it close on that 21-day window. So typically if you're getting activated, it's like they think you're ready within that next week, maybe 2 at the most, because you're not activating someone you think is potentially 22 days away from being ready. And I think that, you know, having the questions about Fournette, and even if he's available, you're probably not wanting to run him into the ground. So to have Gio coming back, and now I don't know how many carries are going to be available. A lot will depend on Fournette's health. We've seen, in terms of a third back, Keyshawn Vaughn has just been getting his first opportunities recently. It's only 2-4 carries a game, so there's not tons available for a third back, because Rashad White's doing so well, because Fournette had done well. But if Fournette's not available as much, I think that would be really helpful to have Giovanni back in the lineup. For you, what are the biggest maybe matchups to watch in this game against the Browns?
A lot of good ones this week. I think I have 2. And my first one is certainly going to be Tristian Wirfs against Myles Garrett. Man, every week I feel like it's Tristian Wirfs versus some incredible, insane defensive end. I mean, the guy can't catch a break.
That's what you get for being a tackle, you know? That's what you get.
But, I mean, Myles Garrett, you cannot let him have a day, because he can most certainly wreck a game. I mean, his rare bend, that explosive get off, I mean, he is almost unblockable and routinely commands double teams. And just how he is able to cover ground off of that initial burst, you know, he causes a lot of issues for tackles that can't counter and can't come back from it, and then he's already dropping the quarterback in the backfield. So, I mean, that's going to be a huge matchup this week, to make sure that they keep Tom Brady upright in the pocket and they can get that run game going. And then I'm also going to go with Amari Cooper, which, I'm not going to lie, it's still weird to see him in a Browns jersey. But Amari Cooper versus either Jamel Dean or Carlton Davis. They've been rotating Amari for both sides. But he is just one of the best route runners in the league. I mean, those subtle movements off the line of scrimmage, the way that he baits DBs. I mean, he's an incredible athlete. So I think how, you know, they're able to stay with him and not be deceived by Amari's precision, I think is going to be big this week to prevent, because, I mean, he's one of Jacoby Brissett's go-to targets downfield and in the red zone. So it's going to be big being able to stop him this week. Yeah,
I think mine's going to be Akeem Hicks versus the whole middle. The whole middle. I just feel like getting to watch him hopefully shut down all that middle area for Nick Chubb for their run game. And I think it's been so cool to watch what a difference he's made.
Yes.
And I do think a big part of the difference he's made does not always lend to him getting the stats. You know, it's that he is taking up all these double teams and blocking up these huge areas, and then freeing up other guys to maybe be making the stats themselves. But I feel like this could be a game where we see Akeem get some of his own, that we not only see him make the difference that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but we see him get a few more, maybe a couple tackles for loss, maybe getting back up in there and really shutting down that run game. He's my guy that I just am excited to see him put a few games together of being back, being healthy, having his legs under him, coming off a bye week, even healthier, hopefully. So I think that's my matchup to watch. How about either an individual player or a position group that you're excited to watch?
I actually have two for this one, and my first is going to be Antoine Winfield Jr. I think he's going to have a really big game when you look at just the way that this Browns offense is. You've got the quarterback runs with Jacoby Brissett. You've got their run game with Nick Chubb. And so whether Antoine is lined up deep as a safety in base and he's, kind of the last line of defense and that safety help over the top against an Amari Cooper or against a Donovan Peoples-Jones, or he's coming up to stop the run, or he's trying, Brissett breaks for a run. He could be kind of in that one-on-one matchup with either Chubb or Brissett. So it's going to be, this game could really hinge upon his ability to break some of that up at the line of scrimmage. And then also, teams have had a lot of success in kind of an over-the-middle passing game against the Browns to try and mitigate the pressure of Myles Garrett and to shut him out completely. So I think you could see a big impact from Cade Otton or Chris Godwin over the middle of the field, being able to exploit kind of some of those intermediate underneath zones on Sunday.
Yeah, I think mine is going to be Rashad White. We talked about the Browns cannot stop the run to save their lives. And I think to watch Rashad this last game against Seattle, it felt like his coming out party, you know? And first 100-yard game, and when we don't know how healthy Fournette is going to be, that just feels like the perfect recipe. And he talked this week to the media about how his confidence level is so high.
Right.
And when you see a stiff arm play like you saw against Seattle, I think it is safe to say that, he is feeling himself at this point. He was saying he just felt like it was just a normal play. Like, it wasn't like he set out to, like...
Oh, no, you watched him watching the replay, and it was just like,
yeah, no big deal.
Sends Quandre Diggs into oblivion, and he's just...
no big deal. I just feel like he's at a place now where he is not thinking or playing like a rookie. That he feels like, this is my time, and he talked about how much opportunities mean to him, that he's a guy that knows to value those. If you know anything about his background and what it took to get him to the NFL, he does not waste opportunities. And this week, with both Fournette being a little banged up and the Browns having a terrible run defense, if that's not an opportunity, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So he's my guy. All right, we're going to throw a new little segment for just this week because, of course, Thanksgiving. So what are you thankful for about this Bucs team or season so far, or something you're thankful for moving forward about the team?
I would say just, honestly, the people in this organization, the friendships that I've been able to form in my first year since coming in April, and just how this organization really values and prioritizes family. I lost my grandfather a few weeks ago, and the outpour of love from this organization has meant the world to me. It's meant the world to my family. So just being here in Tampa, surrounded by so many wonderful people, including players, coaches, all across the board, has just been really encouraging for me.
That's awesome. I love that. And, I think that I'm thankful for a few things. One, for the off-the-field stuff, that it's an organization that it supports and empowers women so much. I was thinking about how much I love getting to do this podcast with you, that two women getting a chance to talk about football, and that wasn't even a question, and it wasn't even brought up about why we're doing it. It was just how it worked. And that it's been cool that both of us, I know, have had the experience of female fans coming up to us at community events or, something else, and just saying, oh my gosh, I love getting to listen to you guys doing this, and it's so inspiring for me as a woman to hear you guys talking about it. So I'm very thankful for that. And then in terms of maybe on the field, I'm just very thankful that, the NFC South has been struggling. And that at 5-5, we sitting at the top, baby. Very thankful. It's very helpful of all of them to be lending.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
The giving, the giving season of Thanksgiving is the NFC South giving us at 5-5 that first place seat. So hopefully it will not be because of that the Bucs are in the playoffs. It will be because they've turned things around and their record ends up being a lot better than the 5-5 that they are right now. But you know what? Whatever gets you in the show, because then anything can happen once the playoffs start. So that's my on the field thankfulness. All right, and we will close with our quote of the week. What is that for you at this point?
So going on the same theme, what you were talking about earlier on Akeem Hicks. So I loved earlier in this week, Will Golston talked about the addition of what Akeem Hicks brings to the defensive line. And he said, that's a big man right there, and he holds up a lot of blockers, and if you try to block him one-on-one, he's going to be able to get off and make the play. He opens up for the back end and other defensive linemen. And I love that. He's just a big man. And also just, very, very telling quote.
And that's a big man saying that he's a big man.
Right.
Will Golston is no little slouch.
Small man.
Yeah, he's a giant dude calling him a big man. Yeah. So, yep, that is very fair. Okay, so my quote of the week is from Rashad White. And he was asked about just his opportunities that he's been getting and his confidence level and all of that stuff. And I just love this. He said, the things I can control is my attitude and effort. And when I play, that's what I control. And I think we've seen that. This guy has come in and done everything right. I mean, even down to when I went to all the rookie events, he was engaged and excited about all of them. And the fact that he showed up at the turkey time for the O-line this week with his little baby. Yes. I don't recall this is my 8th year here now, we haven't done the turkey times in the same way with the players the last couple because of COVID.
Right.
But in all the turkey times I've been to, I don't recall anybody that wasn't an offensive lineman ever going. And Rashad White went with his kid after getting his eyes dilated, wearing some big old sunglasses. Had every reason not to go. And yet he wanted to be there to support his teammates and to give back to the community. And, I just think that it's been so cool to watch how he's done everything right. And you can tell that he controls his attitude and his effort. No matter how many opportunities he's getting on the field or off, whatever it is, he's going to control that. And to me, that is the quote I want to hear from a guy that's going to be here for a long time. Yeah. That's a locker room changing kind of a quote where if everyone on the team feels that way, you're going to win a lot of games. That it's just your attitude and your effort that makes such a difference to this locker room. And to just hear that Rashad White at such a early stage of his career has got that figured out is pretty exciting. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us on this edition of Tampa 2. Thank you so much for being with us. And we'll be back here next week to break down that game against the Browns. We'll see you then.